one. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, your favorite time of the week, man. Football talk with Unc and JL
All
Big
right.
Stepper. We in this bitch. Let's get it, man. Week 12, man. Week 12. We're almost at the end of the year. How crazy is that? Fantasy football season, playoffs coming up soon, and the playoffs in real life coming up soon, man.
Yeah.
Week 12, man. For me, a lot of things stood out, and I'm gonna get into it.
Yeah.
But let's start off with something that kind of surprised me and kind of didn't surprise me. Unc, I want to get your thoughts about this. What are your thoughts about Mike White? This man was throwing dimes, he was
Yeah.
slicing, bro. Bro was looking like I think he played the best quarterback game the Jets have
Yeah.
had all year.
Yeah.
Talk to me, Unc. What do you think, man?
Well, I just think that Mike White did exactly what Zach Wilson did not do,
Oh yeah.
and that is like throw very efficiently.
Mhm.
His quarterback rating was almost perfect for the week, but to go
Yeah.
3 touchdowns, 0 picks after a week in which Zach Wilson threw was it like 1 touchdown or something like
It was like
that, or
7
77?
completions
Yeah,
all
just
game.
yeah, and then to come out and act like, the problems, it's not his problem and all this type of stuff. So they
Man.
had to get somebody with a better attitude in there immediately. And
Mhm.
they sure did, because Mike White looked really, really good doing it. And yeah, he just looked like a football player. And Zach Wilson, when he came out, sounded like a whiner after that game. And you can't really have that. And so, yeah, Mike
Mhm.
Wilson definitely looks to be the guy going forward,
Yeah.
simply because the team is with him.
I'm telling you, Mike White dominated 3 touchdowns, 315 yards. He went 22 for 28. I'm looking at the stats right now.
Yeah,
Bruh, that's what you need. The Jets
yep,
defense is already a playoff defense. Okay.
yep,
They might
yeah,
break some hearts in the playoffs. I'm been telling you right now. You don't want to see them if you're a number one seed. If you're the
yep,
Chiefs, you don't want to see the Jets. You don't
yeah,
want to see
yeah.
the
No,
Jets
you really don't.
because that's definitely a scenario that could happen because you're looking at the Jets, and if they have a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over or doesn't
Hmm.
ruin the flow of the game, you
Yep,
win. You win. And you know
yep.
what it is? I think something that we should note of is that uh Zach Wilson has very similar stats to Jamarcus Russell. Remember how Jamarcus Russell was a flop in the first
not,
season? If you
not
see
a
the
good,
first, not a
not a
good
good
comp at all.
reference. Not
No,
a good
man.
reference.
If you see the first 20 starts, the stats are almost identical, and you're
Oh
like,
my
bruh,
God, that
yes,
is that's not good.
that's not good at all.
Demarcus Russell might be the biggest flop in the
Yes,
history of the NFL, just because he came out as a number one. Zach Wilson did not. But
yeah.
Jamarcus Russell is a bad reference vis-a-vis Zach Wilson.
I'm telling you right now, bruh, unless this man turns it around on some Geno Smith ish,
Right?
I'm like, yo, what's going on? But as somebody who, I like the underdog story, so I like the Jets. But let me tell y'all something I don't like, and that's my MF and Ravens.
Oh,
Unc,
geez.
I was texting Unc about this during the game. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was
And after the
rugged,
game.
man.
Let me tell y'all something, man. As a Ravens fan, right? I love Lamar, right? I'm going to preface this by saying like this. I love Lamar. I think he should get paid, but I hate what this team is doing to him. You see
Mm.
why he got frustrated and tweeted that stuff where he was cussing out a fan? It's because he's frustrated like every
Yep.
other Ravens fan. Because
Hmm.
almost every game that we lost, literally every game that
Yep.
we lost, we were leading at some point by 1 or 2 touchdowns, bro. And
Yep.
let me tell you something about the Jags, the Ravens. Literally, Lamar and the crew, they went 80 yards up the field, scored a touchdown, scored a
Yep.
2-point conversion, okay? And Trevor Lawrence only had 2 minutes to stop
Yep.
to get a touchdown. Everybody in the back of their mind, including myself as a Ravens fan, was like, they're gonna score. I
Yep.
knew they were gonna score. Why do I know they're gonna score? Because our defense is pathetic.
Yep.
Our offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, can never sustain a good running game. Our running
Hmm.
backs are always injured. And every single time Lamar is in the red zone, there's always dropped balls. And now you are risking your starting quarterback
Yep.
getting injured by calling so many runs for him. Let me tell y'all something, man. The reason the Jets beat the Bears is because Justin Fields wasn't there. Why wasn't Justin Fields there?
Right.
Because he had a shoulder injury. Why did he get a shoulder injury? Because that man was running way too much. And I love
Yep.
Justin Fields.
Yep.
This is what they're doing to Lamar. They're forcing him to run because I'm telling you something. These are designed runs. And Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, he's been fired twice from the San Francisco 49ers
Yep.
and from the Buffalo Bills. Why? Because he was running his quarterbacks to the ground. And Lamar is getting ran too much. Lamar
Yep.
is not getting any help from receivers. Lamar is struggling, and Lamar is pissed because now
Yeah.
he's going off on fans. He's mad at press conferences. This is not the Lamar that we love. Lamar's not having fun because his team is ruining his season
Yep.
right now, bro. And
Well,
as a Ravens fan, it pisses me off, bro. And I'm done with it. I don't even want us to make the playoffs. Why? Because what's gonna happen? We're gonna go and ruin it in the fourth quarter, and the Bengals are looking much better than us. I hate this. I'm pissed. I'm mad. We're gonna be playing the Broncos. We might even lose that. Who knows, bro? Anyways, I'll
yeah.
come down, man. I'm just like, wow.
Okay. This is what I'm telling you is that, yeah, Lamar's getting let down because
Yep.
you probably wouldn't realize it. You probably wouldn't realize it, but
Mm.
Lamar Jackson actually is having a career year as far as his passing is going. He's actually
Yes.
having a fantastic passing performance this season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, his defense is letting him down. And so, yeah, here he is in a contract year. It's not his fault. The numbers are so big.
Mm.
And so, you got some fan out there. I mean, Lamar wasn't really wrong, but he
No.
just shouldn't have said it. Again, with like we were talking about quarterbacks or, a certain level of professionalism, et cetera, et cetera. But Lamar has fantastic reason for being upset. He's having a career year as far as passing is going, and yet he's getting let down. Like one of the that pass he had, I forget to whom, but it was just down in the fourth quarter. They were like he was throwing it's a 60-yard reception basically.
The
Um,
Deshaun Jackson. Yeah, we picked up
yeah,
D
Deshaun
guys.
Jackson. That's right.
It's
Like
a perfect pass.
a
Yeah.
fantastic pass. I mean, that's the type of play you want to see from your quarterback. But
Yes.
then to turn around and have your defense let down Jacksonville. Now Jacksonville's a little bit better than people give them credit for, right? But they're they're a 4-7 team, so you are what you are.
Yes.
And to let that team come back in the last 2 minutes and make Trevor Lawrence look like like he's
Like Dan
God.
Marino, dog. He was
Yeah,
looking.
right. So yeah, that should not have happened,
No.
and unfortunately, that's happened probably like maybe 3 times at least this year with the Ravens, where they've had games that they should have won and didn't. So, the fact that they're like 7-4 at all is largely due to Lamar Jackson. So
100%. And you know something I just want to note. I remember that season where the Ravens went like 13-3. That was a few years ago.
hmm
And guess what was the difference? Somebody was watching every game. I watch every snap of Ravens football, man.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
So, the difference was they had a competent run game, bro. They had
yep,
Mark Ingram running the ball, Gus
yep,
Edwards helping along, and
yep.
Lamar didn't have to do so much. See,
That's right.
don't make the man do so much, man. You see why the Bills were kind of losing a little bit for like a few times, a few games, is because
hmm
Josh Allen was doing too much. You know what I'm
Yep,
saying? You look at balanced offenses like the 49ers. You look at
yep,
balanced offense like the Miami Dolphins. That's a team that goes far, bro. And as a Ravens
hmm
fan, I'm disappointed. Man, I'm pretty sure the Broncos might even beat us at this point, bro. Like I'm just like, oh my god. But you know what? We got to talk about this though. That's just my Ravens rant for the week because I know it's coming in the playoffs. I'm gonna rant again. But
yeah, yeah,
let's talk about it's coming,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
I
I get
already know.
that.
But let's talk about this parity in the league of what's going on, like especially in terms of a lot of teams. I don't know if you noticed this, Unc, are like 6-5, 7-3. You know what I mean?
Four
There's
and
even
seven.
4-7. Yeah. What do you think about the parity and the equal thing in the league? Because we did talk a little bit about this where teams are offenses are not the football quality is not the best. What do you think about this parity in the league with a lot of teams having similar records, man? You know what I mean?
Well, at least we don't have like an Ofer team, like
Yes.
when Detroit went like 0 and 16 a few years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just ridiculous. So we actually don't have a real bottom feeder team this year. But what we do
Mm.
have is about 18 teams that are close to 500 or under.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. We're seeing a lot of 3-8, 4-7 teams, 5-5. The NFC South, like the entire division's underwater, for heaven's sakes. So yeah, there is a lot of parity, especially in the NFC, where you really only have
Yeah.
three teams of real good quality.
Mm.
And in the AFC, it's a little bit better. I think there's about 7 teams that are well above 500.
Mm.
But yeah, no, throughout the league, there's a lot of like fair to middling kind of teams without a really really bad team that everybody's beating. So to explain to you why that's happening the way it is, coaching, right? You've
Yeah.
got how many really how many coaches have really got their team lined up and going well? Not that
Yeah.
many, right? About 7 in the AFC and about 3 or 4 in the NFC, AFC and then the NFC. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. And that makes me think about the playoff, how the
Mm.
playoffs are going to look. Because if a lot of teams are in the middle or have similar records, what's going to happen? There's even this thing that I think might even happen. If you look at the NFC East with the Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders, you know what I mean? All those teams could make it. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy to think about, man? The Giants, even all
The
those
AFC
teams could
East
make it.
too.
The
The
AFC
AFC East
East,
too.
yes. Even though the Patriots looked ass on Thursday,
They
but
were terrible.
they could have. I imagine if we had a Patriots fan here, he'd probably rant for 2 hours.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, also too, like the bigger game was losing to Minnesota, right?
Yes.
That really surprised me that they did not go into Minnesota and do what I suggested that they might. Yeah, to see Minnesota like really do what they did against the Pats, that gave me pause right there. That
Yeah.
yeah, the Pats are maybe not as consistent as they have been in past years, even though their defense is like top 3 right now. Like that's the
Yes.
reason I'm saying that game surprised me so much, that they allowed 33 points to begin with, and that they didn't score more points than Minnesota. Yeah, so that
Craziness.
really kind of surprised me. I think the Pats are they've got a good defense, and when they're on point, they've their offense works as well too, as both things showed in that game.
Yeah.
But that they're 6-6. They're not being consistent. They're going to have to
No.
go on a heck of a run, I think, to really squeeze into that playoff. But they might. They
They
might if
might, bro.
Yeah, they very well might. But you have
Yeah.
to remember, though, right? They're at 6 losses now.
Yeah.
7 losses puts you at 10-7. Another loss, and they still have 5 games to play, right? So say they
Yeah.
go 3-2, now you're looking at a 9-8 team, and that's probably the best that the Pats are going to be. Maybe
Yeah.
10 wins if they really go on a run. So that's not that consistent. So maybe they get in, maybe they don't. So maybe the AFC gets in, maybe the AFC East doesn't. But the
Yeah.
NFC East looks like they're easily going to get 3 teams in. Whether it's the
Yeah.
Commanders or Giants, who knows? But my guess is that it'd be the Commanders over the Giants, because the Giants, I think the Giants and the Commanders played twice over the last 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, a lot of divisional games are gonna happen. So the Pats are gonna
Yeah,
play the Miami, they're gonna play the Bills, obviously they play the Bills, they're gonna
yeah,
play the Jets, and obviously the Commanders and the Giants, they're gonna face off, I think, 2 more times. And it's gonna be a lot
yeah,
of
they do.
divisional games to close off. Bruh, this is very cool. One of these full divisions might make it in, or at least
Yeah,
3 of the.
yeah.
That's maybe the first time I've seen that ever. I don't know. Have you ever seen something like that,
I
on?
don't think I've ever seen it where a whole division gets in. No.
Yeah, or like close to that. Like, wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy to me. But you know
yeah.
what? Let's talk about something that's maybe not as crazy, because I kind of saw this coming. Jordan Love coming
Mm.
in relief, right? For the Green Bay Packers versus the Eagles. And the man was knocking on the door. Let me tell you something. The Eagles are great. but they have some flaws, bro. They have a good quarterback and a good offense, like the 49ers. We've been talking about
Mhm.
this. Could expose them in the playoffs. Jordan Love was throwing it, he was slinging it.
Yeah.
Perfect. He had that nice drive for the touchdown, 6 for 7, 113 yards in the TD, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I even
Jordan
saw an
Love.
interview where Aaron Rodgers like, I'm gonna play until we're statistically, mathematically out of the playoffs. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Well, I think Jordan Love looked great, but I mean,
Yeah,
are we gonna are we going to take out Aaron Rodgers? I mean,
no,
if he's if he's not injured or whatever.
yeah,
But Rodgers, I was taking a look at the stats on Rodgers for this year, and he's actually having his worst season, full season,
yeah,
than since his first full season, which I think was like 2008. Like he was 3 years in.
yeah,
And yeah, no, he's on pace to like possibly double digit interceptions, which is very much unlike him.
yeah.
His quarterback rating is the lowest it's been since a full season in like 2008. And if you watch the decline over the last 2 years, like he had a season quarterback rating of 122 in 2019,
Oh,
112 in last year, and he's on pace for about 92 or 90, a quarterback rating of 92 or 93 this year. So there's a
oh,
decline going on with Rodgers, whether it's him personally, talent wise, or the talent around him. I can't say exactly for sure,
yeah,
but he's still like physically a quality QB,
yeah,
but mentally, his attitude and whatnot, it may not be as good as it has been in the past, or maybe it's been the same as it's been in the past. And this is the first time he's really had, just fair to middling talent around him instead of really fantastic talent around him. So
mm,
it's hard to say what the real reason is, but he's definitely on a subpar season compared to his career to this point. Whether that's enough to say that okay, Jordan Love comes in for the remainder of the season, I mean that's not going to happen, right? I mean,
yeah.
otherwise, like Rogers is gonna, I don't know what he's gonna do exactly, but he'll be very upset.
Yeah, as a fan of Rodgers, bro, your eyes can't lie, bro. Like when
Yeah,
you watch him play, he's not playing comfortable, and
yeah,
he's not playing the same confident type of football. I'm not saying that they should offload him or get rid of him. Of course not. This is your two-time MVP quarterback. He's the franchise, and they,
yeah.
from a cap standard, they have to keep him. You know what I mean? Like
You're right.
he eats up a lot of the cap on the team. So for the next, like, I think with the cash, they have to keep him for at least 2 more seasons. But I wouldn't mind if the Packers put Jordan Love in front a little bit and show him off so that they can make some kind of trade package. Because
Well,
the Packers are not going anywhere with this offense, bro.
yeah.
Nowhere.
I was about to say, right? Give
Yeah.
the Packers credit for doing what we've talked about having a quality quarterback on the bench,
Yeah,
mentored and
true.
learning the system for 2-3 years. Problem
Yeah.
is he's going to be what, like his fourth career year, I think, coming up
Yeah,
next year.
this is gonna be like, yeah, but next year is gonna be his fourth
So
season.
the
Crazy.
guy's going to be 6 or 7 years into his career before he becomes a starter in Green Bay, and that might be too long. but
Right.
but give Green Bay credit for having a stud on the bench.
I don't think they expected Aaron Rodgers to have 2 MVP seasons. They
Do you
expected
remember?
a decline, man.
Do you remember how upset Rodgers was when
Oh, he was
Jordan got
cheesed.
drafted?
He was
That
pissed,
was
dog.
like, oh geez, that was 2 years ago.
Yep. And then he just said, I'm gonna turn up on y'all, man. I'm just gonna go win MVPs.
Yeah,
But nothing in the playoffs. And that's always been my thing about Rodgers, man. You are such a great quarterback, but
yeah.
something happens in the playoffs that, like, what is going on right now? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
how can you be so great in the regular season and then the playoffs? Like, come on. Like,
yeah.
oh my God.
What are you
But
gonna do?
that's crazy, man. But I'm gonna say it like this, man. As we prepare for week 13, man, as our tradition, as we always do, some lines and point spreads, games of the week. I'll go first. A game that I really, really like that I'll put a little bit of moolah on is this Jets and Minnesota game. They
Yeah,
have Minnesota as the favorite. They got about 2.5, 2.5 points. I take
Yeah.
the Jets, man. I think the Jets might do a little upset ting. I like them. And another one that I really like is Tennessee and Philly. You know what I mean? They got
Mm.
Philly as a favorite. I'm telling y'all something. Even though the Titans, even though they lost last week versus the
That was a
Bengals,
great game.
it was a fantastic game. And I'm telling
Yeah.
you, the Titans
Defensive, but still really good quality game.
you had you on the edge of your seat, right? Because me, I was
Yeah.
like, what's gonna happen next? You know what I mean? It wasn't like this super 30, 35 point type game for no, it was a strategic match of things that could happen in the playoffs because the
A
Bengals
good
and
road
Titans,
game. A good road game for Cincinnati,
since
right?
he's
To win,
coming back, yeah,
yeah,
they're
win by 4 points
7-4.
on the road in Tennessee. That was a quality game.
Very quality game, and I think they're playing Philly this week, and they got Philly by 7 points, man. Like a
Mm,
whole touchdown. I'm like, I took a think about Tennessee, but man, that's what I have right now in terms of point spreads and potential games of the week. Unc, what do
right.
you have in your mind? What games are you looking at? They're like, whoa, this
Well,
might be good for our bettors out there.
the one that I think is really kind of interesting is Jacksonville at Detroit. They've got a 51 point over under,
Oh
but
my god.
a 1 point point spread for Detroit. Which,
Okay.
as we've said in the past, right? They usually build in a 1.5 to 2 point advantage for the home team in the
Yes.
point spread. So they're
Yes.
basically telling you that Jacksonville could beat Detroit in a shootout. So that might be an interesting game to watch.
Well.
Chances are it'll be 6-9 or some shit. Um,
With our luck.
Now, the other one I find really
Yeah.
interesting too is Miami at San Francisco. That's going to be a really
Mm.
interesting game of the Tua-led offense versus that fantastic San Francisco defense, and again at
Right.
home. They're asking for 46.5 points over under. I'd probably take the under on that, just simply
Okay.
because of the defense at work there.
Mm.
And I think that Cincinnati doesn't score, or pardon me, San Francisco doesn't score a ton of points to begin with. So 4 point spread, maybe, and over under. I don't
Mm.
think so. So,
Mm.
but still, the entertainment value, two division leading teams or close to division leading with Miami. But yeah, that's going to be one of those games that helps tell us, what's happening in the league.
It's gonna be a huge game, and
Yeah.
dare I say, it could even be a Super Bowl preview. Like if
Yeah.
these teams go
Yeah.
on a run, that could be
Absolutely.
a
It could be.
real matchup for real.
The other one that's really interesting looking, of course, is going to be one of those AFC West shootout games. It's going to be awesome, I believe, and that's going to be the Chargers at Vegas against the
Oh
Raiders.
yes.
2.5 point spread, 49.5 points over under. So that game's just going to be insane. It probably won't be decided until the last 2 minutes.
Oh, 100%. It's one of
That's going to
those
be a good
matchups.
game.
I'm excited for that. I didn't even really peep that. Yeah, that's gonna be a good game. Vegas versus the
Yeah,
Chargers, man. And I'm
Vegas
telling
at
you,
home. After what Josh Jacobs did last week, what? Yeah, man.
yo,
Yeah, and I'm
that
pretty sure the Chargers give up a few points on the run.
oh, and you know how the Chargers do, bro. It's always
Yeah.
last minute until the end of the game, to the final whistle, and the Chargers find creative ways to lose.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So,
It's probably going to be 34-31. Who gets it? I'm not sure. My guess is probably going to be the Raiders, though. The Raiders are looking better.
the Raiders are looking better. I don't know what happened. Well, I know what happened. They started handing Josh Jacobs the ball. And that
Okay.
leads to
Yeah.
our fantasy talk of the week, man. If you are not starting Josh Jacobs, you are in a coma. You
Yeah.
are deceased. Why are you even watching this podcast? You should probably see a doctor. So, you know what I mean? Josh Jacobs,
Wow.
300 plus scrimmage yards,
Yeah.
and the overtime game winning rush to win the game.
83-yard walk-off touchdown. That doesn't
Like,
even
how
happen
often do
in
you see that?
overtime. That doesn't even happen in the NFL where,
Nah.
83 yards to the end zone to win the game. I mean, how
It
often do
looked
you see
old
that?
school, bro. It looked old school. It looked like
It
an
was.
80s, 90s
It
type of
was.
game. And I love it. The return of the run game. We talked about this.
Oh,
If you're watching this podcast, you know we talk about this stuff.
Derrick
We've been
Henry.
up on game.
Oh
There,
man.
yep.
The,
Uncle, what do you think, man? We go into the fantasy section, man. Any starts and sits. Obviously, the ultimate start is Josh Jacobs. Any
yeah.
sits or any starts, maybe some people should watch out for as they walk into the playoffs as we get ready for this the fantasy season end, man.
You know who I think is going to do really well this week? Finally,
Mm, yeah.
is Christian Kirk actually in
Oh,
Jacksonville.
okay.
He
Okay.
he was supposed to do well last week, but his the wide receiver too. Geez, I forget his name. He had a big
It was like
150
Zay
yard
Joseph
game.
or something. Yeah, Zay
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
but the reason is though, of course, is because everybody was watching Christian Kirk because they were expecting that to come in. I don't expect that to
Oh,
happen 2 weeks in a row. So
yeah.
Christian Kirk, I think, is finally going to be due this week against Detroit in that
Mhm.
shootout type of game that we're looking at. So I think some of your players, Christian Kirk, there is going to look very good.
Nice.
I was looking at some of the games in fantasy, almost more like which team should be looking good on that one.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so your shootout games, your Chargers and your Vegas players are gonna look really good.
Mhm.
Seattle against the Rams. My guess is that Seattle fantasy players are probably gonna be looking good.
Yeah.
Lockett, maybe even Metcalf might finally get something on there. Kenny
Yeah.
Walker the third will have a bounce back game, I'm sure,
Oh
against the
yeah.
Rams. Oh Jesus Christ, that's
Rams
going to
have
be good.
got a trash defense.
Yeah, and now KC Cincinnati is going to be an epic
Mm,
game. I think
yes.
Chase is still out though, so
He's questionable for the game, but
yeah,
they're thinking
but
you might be out. You might be out.
T. Higgins, as the wide receiver one in Cincinnati, has been doing
Yes.
fantastic. I'm not sure when Mixon is due back, but Mixon historically has done fantastic in the last quarter of the season.
Yeah.
So I'd be looking for Cincinnati players and KC players, both to be having fantastic games. They're only calling for. Or pardon me, no, they are calling for a big, like 53 point expectation in that game. The 53 points for the over under lets you know
Oh,
that, all your usual Cincinnati and
suspects.
KC players are going to ball out this weekend. I'm pretty sure.
You
So,
know, of course, if they're expecting a 54 point explosion,
yeah.
Kelsey and Mahomes are definitely gonna
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
off.
How could
So
they not,
you
right?
might win your matchup off both of them.
Yeah, yeah. I would expect Kelce to be huge.
Yeah,
I would expect Mahomes to be huge in that one. We'll have
mm,
to figure out which running back in the KC backfield comes through.
right.
Uh, was it Pacheco? I think had a pretty good game last week, so he's rounding into form.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, no, I absolutely expect the wide receivers in Cincinnati to have a good game. Absolutely,
They're
with Burrows
they're gonna
for
have a
sure.
really good game, and somebody who I think is coming back, really into form, and I benched him this last week, and I was pissed about it. Uh,
Always, right? Always.
you know what I'm saying? And then he exposed for 20 points. It's crazy. Amon-Ra St. Brown off the Detroit
Yeah.
Lions, and something is crazy. There's even like a weird scenario where the Lions might even make the playoffs. I don't even know how,
I don't think
but
so.
it's the Lions offense. The one thing is they can score points. The defense is
Yeah,
gonna
they
give
can.
away a lot of points. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is somebody you should watch out for. CD Lamb's been coming into form. I think CD Lamb is a weekly start. From
Jamal Williams.
Jamal
Jamal
Williams.
Williams
Yeah,
is
right.
fucking
Yes.
killing me. Yeah, I actually dropped him early in the year when DeAndre Swift came back because he was my,
Oh
my
no.
starter, right?
Wow.
And that guy has crushed it. He has put on like I think
Killing
almost
it.
10 touchdowns,
Oh
rushing
yes.
touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
So he doesn't get a ton of yards, but he has really like in the red zone, that guy has been killer. So a lot of people may not have him because it's a Detroit running back, or I mean, I'm sure they have them, but they're probably questioning. It's a coin flip every weekend whether to play him or not. I don't think it's a
Yeah,
coin flip anymore. That guy's getting
no.
so many red zone touches that yeah, Jamal Williams has just been fantastic. Undernoted as well too.
I'm telling you, man, these guys in the Lions, man, they can put up some points. They can give up a lot of points, but they can give it up. They can do
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? But I want to touch on something before we close it out. What are some playoff predictions? And because we kind of flirted around with it
yeah.
throughout the podcast, right?
Hmm.
But 7 potential teams in both conferences. What are your playoff predictions? How is it looking on your end? For me, I personally think that mm, it's hard. It's hard, but if we
Yep.
look at the AFC, I'll start off with the AFC on my take. I think the Bills are in there. I think the Dolphins are in there, right? I'm gonna just go with every division who I think wins. The AFC East,
Sure.
I think Dolphins are gonna win that personally. AFC West, I think the Chiefs got that. The AFC North, I hate saying it, but the Bengals probably have that. I'm so down on my Ravens, bro. But I think the Bengals are playing great football. The AFC South,
Yeah.
Titans, of course. And in terms of the wild cards or extras, like Dolphins, well, Bills, obviously, if I have the Dolphins winning the East.
Yep.
Jets are coming in there. My Ravens are going to come in there just to round it out. But what are your thoughts in the AFC in terms of playoff seeding? How does it look for
Right.
you? And then we'll go to the NFC right after.
Well, at first it's been a bit of a toss up.
Yeah,
Who's
thought.
Yeah, with the AFC East in general. But
Mm,
assuming that the AFC East has the Bills on top, you're kind of looking at your seeding. Okay, is it going to be the Chiefs or the Bills, right? And
right.
the Bills beat the Chiefs earlier in the season.
Yes.
But as it is right now, the Chiefs have a one-game advantage, assuming that they win again this weekend, which is not an assumption at all. And the Bills did the right thing by winning on Thursday night to get the weekend started. So that put some pressure on the rest of the AFC East for sure,
Right.
and also on the Chiefs as far as being the number one seed in the conference, because that gives you home field throughout the playoffs, and like
Yes.
that's
Oh
going to
my
be
gosh.
huge, right? If
Huge.
the Bills end up having if they end up winning the conference, being ranked number one in the conference, and end up having every game in Buffalo, like that might change the nature of the AFC
They might
the
walk to the
AFC
Super Bowl.
playoffs because of the
Yeah.
weather, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Chiefs are going to come out number one, which means that they'll be in Kansas City for
Yeah.
that, and that means that if the Bills come back, it's a rematch in KC again, and yeah, I don't think KC is going to
Oh
allow themselves to lose twice to the Bills in KC. So
no.
right, so I see the way I look at the seedings is the Chiefs, Bills, and then the Bengals, number three, and the Titans, because they'll be
Yeah.
the division championships champions in my eyes.
Mm.
5, 6, and I think that we have a seventh position now.
Yeah,
Do
it's
we not? I
7
think we
now
got
because
14 teams in the
mm,
tournament now.
14. Yeah, we have 14 now.
Yeah, 14 in total. I mean, 7 per conference. So yeah, I'd be looking at the Dolphins in Baltimore to fill out the 5 and 6 spot.
Yeah.
And number 7, it depends on how the Pats finish out the season, because they've got a tough schedule.
Oh, they
I
do.
can see, yeah, like we talked about earlier, I can see a scenario where the Pats have maybe only like 9 wins or something like that.
Right.
And if that's the case, that puts them in line also with like a team like the Chargers, for example. Might get in there.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
mean, I think you're basically talking about fodder teams that are, going to get wiped out in the wild card games at this point. But we'll
Mhm.
see. We'll
Yeah.
see. So yeah, that's how it looks at to me, and I would imagine that the conference championship game, because I'm kind of high on the Bengals. I think the Bengals are doing well this year. They've
Oh,
thrown off that
yes.
Super Bowl hangover and left it in the dust after Game 2, right? As opposed to the LA Rams, who are just been they've been hungover all day, right? It's 4 in the afternoon and they're still sick. um, so I'm looking at like the Chiefs and Bengals as your possible conference championship game in for the
Oh,
AFC. NFC.
repeat of last year. Well, kind of.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was how it sort of looks, right?
Yeah.
Now, and probably the Chiefs would, probably
I think the Chiefs would take
probably
that,
come
but
out on
you
top of that
you
game, like
never
because
know
of what
these
happened last year. Now,
unpredictable. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and in the NFC, I'm looking at the Eagles. I'm
Mhm.
surprised as hell that Minnesota did not fall down like I thought they might. I thought they might when their schedule stiffened up. I thought they might lose a couple more games, but Minnesota's managed to hang on.
You see,
So
this is why I'm saying the Lions have a chance. Anyways, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So I'm looking at Eagles, Minnesota, and probably 49ers and Bucks because the Bucks are probably going to win that division, right? So
Yeah.
so unfortunately that puts them at 4. Unfortunately, but Cowboys, Seahawks, and probably Washington Giants. One of those two is
Oh,
number 7.
okay.
So, but I definitely see the Cowboys in there,
Yeah.
and they're probably going to be the strongest number 5 seed I've ever seen in the playoffs, right? So that's pretty insane. So
Gotcha.
my guess is it's probably going to be Eagles Cowboys in the in the NFC conference championship game.
Mhm.
So coming out of that one, yeah, it's hard to say yet. I'm not ready to just give it to the Eagles at this point. I have to see a little bit more of Dallas. I want to see if they continue with that strength that they've had on there. So we'll
Mhm.
see how that goes. But I'm pretty sure you're looking at Eagles and Cowboys and Chiefs and Bengals as your final 4.
Got you, got you. I have a few disagreements. I have a few things that I
Sure.
might change a little bit. And for the AFC, I think the Jets are gonna get in instead of the Pats or even the Chargers as a
Yep.
7 seed. Because the way I look at it, if the Pats don't go on a tear and literally beat the Jets, because they're playing each other in a few weeks, or if the Chargers don't upset the Chiefs, because they're gonna play the Chiefs again, I think in the
Mhm.
upcoming weeks. I think the Jets have a clear path, bro. Especially if Mike White actually presents himself as somebody who's a competent quarterback who doesn't have a lot of turnovers. That Jets defense, I really like it. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of that defense, and that can
Well,
cause some issues as a 7 seed if they're facing like the Chiefs. Oh man! So for me, in terms of what I could see happening in the AFC Championship, is 2 whole new teams because we've seen the Chiefs always there, of course.
yep.
You know what I mean? But who says we can have like a Miami and Bengals? I think that's a big
You
possibility, or
could.
even the Titans. The Titans
Yep.
could make it. You know what I mean? Like you who
Yeah.
knows? You know what I
I
mean? Talk to
I
me.
think I think some experience comes into play there.
Yes.
Mike White. I mean, this is the question. We were talking about this earlier.
Right.
How well does Mike White go forward?
Yes.
If he really is better mentally than Zach Wilson and maintains it and keeps it, they do have a tough schedule going down the road. So yeah, no, I mean, Pats Pats Chargers could easily be Jets as well too, for sure. But my feeling is that I think that the Jets will maybe fall a little bit on D going down the road,
Mm,
but doesn't have to be like that. Jets absolutely could get in there as well too.
yeah.
So yeah, no, I totally believe it. But
Ultimately,
you're
that
talking about
says
a
like
rookie.
these are just guesses. We never know.
Yeah,
And you know what? We give predictions out here. I just think I'm just high on the Jets personally because I've just seen them play. Well, anyways, it's just
I love
a
I
slight
love
little,
watching
you know
them.
what I'm saying? Yeah.
I love
What?
watching them, but a guy with 5 playoff games going, pardon me, 5, 6 career going
Just
into
gonna
the
do a
playoffs.
little test, my guy. I'm not too sure if I can fully hear you. Can you repeat what you said, my guy?
Yeah, what I was saying is that with Mike White, as good as he looks right now, I think what we're looking at there is just a very inexperienced quarterback going into the playoffs if they make it in, and if
Mhm.
they're if they're playing up against a division champ like the Bengals or something,
Yeah,
I think that it's going to be problematic at the end. By the time we get to the fourth quarter, it'd probably be problematic just
yeah,
because
it's gonna get
there's no
tight.
experience.
Yeah,
And the playoffs start to, they start to show you stuff,
they
which
expose
teams
who
can
you
really
are.
play, right?
Yeah.
Like I would expect the Bengals to be especially tough in this playoff round,
Oh yes,
simply
yes.
because of their experience last year.
Yeah,
And the same thing with the Chiefs.
yeah.
And the Bills have had some playoff experience recently as well too. My biggest concern with the Bills actually going into the playoffs in total
Mhm.
is Josh has thrown too many picks. He's throwing himself
Yeah,
out of
he
our
leads the
playoffs.
league. He leads the league
Our
in picks.
MVP conversations, like you
Yeah.
noticed, we didn't give him the respect we probably should have last week, but
No.
that's because of the picks. He's
Yep.
had too many picks, and that will show up in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, you know what it is, man? He forces the ball too much. And I get
Yep.
it. He's trying to win it. He's got
And that's
that, and that's a
bad in
good
the
thing, but
playoffs.
bro, in the playoffs, he one pick, it's over.
Yep.
One mistake is over. And the sign of that is when we look at the NFC, because what I'm thinking is, like we've been saying since the beginning of the season, we're big on Jalen Hurts. We're big on
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts. But bro, that playoff experience matters, and he's
it
going
does.
to have so much pressure going into it that for me, I could see an NFC championship game with the usual suspects, the 49ers and the Cowboys. And that's going to be a crazy matchup because
Yeah.
at that point, it's going to be which offense and which defense is going to hold the line. And
Yep.
for me, I'm thinking that playoff experience might pop in and we might see Jimmy G again in the Super Bowl. Well, you're
You
like,
know what?
who would have thought the dude that they wanted to ship the hell out of
Yeah.
there is taking him to, and that's where, but it could
Yep.
be the Cowboys as well. So for me, my only switch from what you were saying in terms of the playoff is I would say the Niners have a very, very good shot because of the experience piece. You know what I mean?
But
And
the
let's not,
defense, though, the
and the deep,
biggest thing.
yes.
Yeah, because like San Francisco, I heard an analyst this week actually talking about how San Francisco is starting to look like the '85 Bears in the sense that their
Oh,
defense look like
interesting.
they can win any game,
Yeah, the
and but
last
it
week's
doesn't
game,
matter
yeah,
how
they only
Jimmy
scored
G's
13
playing.
points. Yeah,
It doesn't
13
matter how
points.
Jimmy G's playing.
Yeah,
But the thing I would counter to that when it comes to the Eagles is
yeah.
the Eagles have shown us that they can win any which way, any game script you want to give them. They've shown the ability to win.
With the run and the
40-point game,
passing.
40-33 game against Green Bay, or going into Indianapolis to win, what was it, 17-15 or something like that.
Right.
So I think that the Viking, or not the Vikings, but the Eagles have shown a lot of strength this season and versatility. So I think I do believe that the Eagles can, however the game script turns out, can turn it around one way or the other and accommodate.
Well, I have a question for you. This is like a little, you know,
Mm-hmm.
little audible, little change up on the play. You
I
know what
knew
I
it. I
mean?
knew it was coming.
Just one small audible, man.
Yeah,
Before
man.
we end the pod, defensive players of the year. Right. I remember we
Mm,
started our podcast really a few weeks ago, a few months ago, actually, crazy.
yeah.
Where we talked about TJ Watt's impact
Oh,
on
geez.
the Steelers, right? And like I'm seeing the Steelers, they're coming back. Kenny Pickett
Yeah.
is looking competent. But let's have a little conversation about defensive players right now because
Mika Parsons.
Parsons killing it.
We were
Nick
unsure
Bosa.
about that. We were unsure about
We
that
weren't
last
sure
time we
about that. I
talked.
remember, yeah.
But Mika Parsons had 2 more sacks on the weekend, and Buddy did
Yes.
not, right? And the Pats D hasn't
Yeah.
looked nearly as strong as Dallas that way, and Mika Parsons again has been the reason. So yeah, I'm starting to lean towards Mika Parsons as our defensive MVP.
Really, that's honestly, I think it's a two-way race between Parsons and Nick Bosa.
Oh
Bosa
yeah,
is doing
Bosa's.
really good,
I love
man.
Bosa. I
I
love
do
Nick
too,
Bosa. Him
man.
and I think he's a fantastic defensive end. He's a defensive or nose tackle. He's just fantastic. Nick Bosa he's probably gonna rack up a few more sacks over the last
Oh
few
yeah,
games too.
I
Yeah,
think
he's really starting to come into form.
the man has, I think, at least 13 sacks right now. Parsons has like 12, but Parsons, they put him in everywhere. They put him all around the field,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's just
yeah.
going to be really interesting. I just wanted to talk about that defensive conversation. I don't know. I just like,
Well,
I don't know. I'm
again
a
with
fan of
again
it.
with Parsons though, like he's
Yeah.
got a lot of other ancillary type of stats too, right? The forced
Yes.
fumbles and
Oh, yeah.
interceptions, the things that Bosa will not get.
No, yes.
Um, but I like the comment about TJ Watt. It's interesting how the entire team
Plays
is
better.
feeling better with
Yeah.
him back. So yeah, that again, like I talked about in the first podcast about him as an MVP, just in the sense that he's such a valuable player to his team,
Right.
mentally as well as physically.
We've even talked about the fact that they should be just a quarterback award, and there should be a straight up MVP award. We've
Yeah.
talked about that. We're lobbying for that because the impact, like you just said, TJ Watt has on the entire Steelers organization. It looked
I
like it
think
might even go 500. I don't know.
they might. I think that the really, I think that if you did that, if you had like a quarterback MVP award sort of thing, most
Right.
valuable quarterback award, I think that the MVP whole conversation would expand a great deal. Because
I
here's
agree.
another guy some people are looking at, thinking about as a fantastic MVP. Um, is Justin Jefferson. Look at what Justin Jefferson is
Oh
doing this year
yes.
too,
Oh my
right?
God. You're right.
Um, in fact, I actually saw some stats though
You're
about
absolutely right.
who people thought was going to be MVP, right? And it was just Mahomes. It was Mahomes, Tua, and Hurts, right? I mean,
Right.
like there were no, and they were all with like your 2-1, 3-1, 5-1 type of odds.
Right.
Right. And then it drops off right after that. It goes down to 10, 11, 12-1, 15-1, and so that's ridiculous, right? That the
Yeah.
quarterbacks are so far ahead in the MVP race. It's unfortunate.
I'm telling you right now, man, just to round everything off. If Justin Jefferson was not on the Vikings are not 9-2 right now.
No, they're not.
Everybody knows that. If Mekhi Parson was not on the Cowboys, they are not 8-3.
That's right.
You know what I mean? If
For
Nick
sure.
Bosa is not on the 49ers, okay, the Niners might still be good, but they will not be this good. So you have impact players, right, that are
Mm,
not the quarterback position that everybody knows, including the quarterbacks of those teams, know that they make the team better. So,
yeah.
as I say, we're gonna come up with our own, MVP awards for the
Yeah.
podcast. When the season ends, we're gonna come up with our own MVPs.
We're gonna have a MVP A and B.
Exactly, A and B. You know
Yeah.
what I
I
mean?
think it's
Like,
a good idea.
honestly, because
It makes
because
the conversation more interesting.
these
Because now
quarterbacks,
you're talking about running backs, wide receivers,
yes.
linebackers. I mean, yeah, it's suddenly a much more dynamic conversation about the MVP when you
Mm.
take the quarterbacks out of it.
And that's what happened like back in the if you look older football, like in the 80s, 90s, like
Yeah,
the teams were more complete because they didn't rely on one guy to be slinging the ball down the
yeah,
field so much. You know what I mean? You had Lawrence Taylor who had won an MVP, and it's obvious because that Giants team was nothing without LT. You know
yeah,
what I mean? You
yeah,
had teams that needed guys like Deion Sanders. You needed guys. You can't just rely on the quarterback play, and we see that so often in the playoffs, man.
yeah,
Anyways, Anka, those are just my final points. Anything you want to say
yeah,
before we close it out, my G?
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, honestly, no, this has been a very thorough conversation on all of this. I think the league is starting to round into form.
Yes, sir.
The other thing that you're seeing also too in fantasy
Mhm.
is that one of the comments I made earlier on in the year is that a lot of the players that you expect to finally come around, not as many of them did actually this year. You're starting to see
Oh.
some newer guys show up in the top tens of your fantasy ranks this year.
Mm.
But guys like Henry and whatnot that I told you would come on, Josh Jacobs would come on at the end of the year.
Yes,
Sure
sir.
enough, they are. They
Mm.
really are.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, it's the league is starting to take the form that I think we all sort of thought it would take a little bit as the season progressed, and it's starting to look like a mad rush down to the playoffs, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Man, fantasy playoffs about to be
Yeah,
lit. I'm gonna keep y'all updated when me and Unc play each other because we're definitely playing each other in the playoffs.
yeah,
But
yeah.
appreciate you, man, and we'll tap in next week, man. Y'all get ready for the week 13, and we'll tap in next week. And we out, bro.
All right, guys. One love.
Deuces.
Peace out.
Peace out.